Welcome to the Muslim Street, this week's edition of the Muslim Street. You can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com, across all social media, Facebook, Instagram, as well at the Muslim Street. And if you go to muslimstreet.com, you'll see some periodicals, some articles, timely articles that deal with issues on the Muslim Street, as well as other items. One thing, just a little house cleaning. Our co-host, Art Mobley, former founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists and also a co-convener of Dow 423, will be joining us shortly from Phoenix, Arizona. I was having a bit of some technical issues around weather. I didn't know it was some bad weather down in Phoenix. I don't even know what goes on in Phoenix in the summertime other than 120 20 degrees. Anyhow, we're joined with Abdul Rahman from Chicago, who was on our podcast last week discussing the Palestinian liberation movement. And I must add, Abdul Rahman had a fantastic time as we hosted live from Chicago in the Muslim community, in the Palestinian community, the Muslim Street podcast, which was aired all throughout Africa and, of course, here in the States. Fantastic job. Appreciate the hosting of us and the Muslim Street and myself that went on there. They extended, Abdul Rahman was a key person on that, extended hospitality that only Muslims can extend. And if anybody out there in the listening audience knows what I'm talking about. One thing I was impressed, I'm originally from Chicago. And probably in my teenage years, through my 20s, I would go over in the southwest side of Chicago where you have towns like Oak Lawn and Payless. You have other towns like just the southwest side of Chicago, Bridgeview, etc. Those towns were just kind of like, white extensions of, the white side of Chicago. Not much going on there. But when I went back there last week, I was thoroughly impressed with the Muslim integration of those towns. And it seems that Abdul Rahman that it has breathed life into that entire region. I mean, we're talking about fine dining restaurants, a whole cultural infrastructure. Not only that includes mosques, schools, museums, etc. But I just saw a whole bustling environment of Muslims with halal restaurants and, just the youth appearance all throughout that whole southwest side of Chicago. I'm very impressed.
Yes. The feedback from the community on the Muslim Street was so positive. I'm still getting comments about it. We had maybe roughly about 40 people, 35 to 40 people attend in person the broadcast, and very well engaged and really hungry for more, as you could say. And so hopefully it'll be maybe a regular annual or biannual event that we do. The community has come a long way. Like you said, the infrastructure extending from the businesses, restaurants to community centers, and even the place that we held the event, it's fairly new and it still needs a lot of work. But I showed you the auditorium. Once they can get that going, first class venue, and the different rooms that they provide the community for really for free. I know different little community groups and whether it's Tatriz class, which is the traditional sewing, or Depka, which is the traditional dance. They let these groups and these instructors use the facility, for free and just to give back to the community. So they're doing a lot there, and in addition to the religious institutions that are really the basis of building the community around.
Yeah, I mean, as I stated, I grew up in Chicago, and to be perfectly honest with you, prior to the Arab Muslims coming to that area, and that's a large swath, by the way, of geography when we talk about the southwest side of Chicago. The suburbs of Chicago bump up to the southwest side of Chicago, and they kind of just run on, and all of it is Chicago. Same with the south suburbs, same with the north suburbs. So all of it's Chicago. Anyhow, when I was growing up in my teens and 20s, we didn't frequent over there unless we were, on the way to the airport, and that'd be Midway Airport. We wasn't welcomed over there. That means if we went to, a shopping center or something like that, you're going to get that black treatment. The experience that I had over there last week, very welcoming. And I went back to my friends out in the south suburbs that I grew up with in Chicago on the south side. I said, you have to go over there and get the Muslim experience. Very, very, very welcoming art. The southwest side of Chicago, the Muslim integration over there. I mean, fine dining restaurants. I'm glad I had a suit on in some of the places because it was that level of of service and elegance. So I really appreciate that. We will be back the Muslim Street to do some live activities over there, but. Just the welcoming experience of the southwest side of Chicago, it is now open to Black people, be Muslim or not, whereas before, and I am a witness to what was before when the Irish Catholics ran that place. No, it was like you're on the wrong side of the tracks, and everybody knows what that means. So, big ups to the Muslims, and if you're in the Chicago area or if you're visiting Chicago, make sure that you make it over to Payless, make it over to Bridgeview, make it over to the southwest side of Chicago to visit the Muslim.
But still drive slowly because the police will pull over Black and brown people every chance they get for any reason they can get, as you know. So getting there, you have.
That's a Chicago thing. You go through these little small towns. Even when I was, I had my license at 16 years old, and I got many a ticket coming out of a 50 mile an hour into a 25, just like that in an instant, and then they pull you over. This is the way they feed the coffers of those small towns, those small villages, and they feed them off of people who don't live there, passing through, so you can pay those tickets. This is done all over America, but Chicago does it irregardless of the village being white, Black. You can go out to Phoenix, Illinois, Dixmoor, Illinois, East Chicago Heights, Illinois, where I grew up at, on the south side. Same thing. And why not?
It's a little extra for the Muslims, like women who wear hijab, they will get pulled over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're welcomed by Art Mobley, founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists, co-host of the Muslim Street, Balfour 23, convened in 2007 on the banks of the Nile River in Sudan. Art, just want to welcome you to the program and talk about this very hot topic. We titled this The Resurrection of Cori Bush. If most of us know, and we'll just kind of briefly educate the audience, Abdul Rahman, on Cori Bush. We met her hosted by the Muslims on the southwest side of Chicago last Thursday for a fundraiser dinner, which I attended. Cori gave the former congresswoman from the first district, congressional district in Missouri, gave a very rounding speech about her intentions. But the main thing was, in 2024, Zionist money came and they threw at a Uncle Tom by the name of Wesley Bell. This is the Muslim Street. We kind of call people out for who they are. And Wesley Bell have taken millions and millions of dollars of Zionist money, and he won that election in 2024. The resurrection has happened. I'll set that up, Abdul Rahman.
Yes. So she won election in 2020 and then got reelected in 2022. In those 4 years or 3.5 years, her record caught the attention of APAC, and they dumped a lot of money. They convinced a local politician to run against her, dumped $15 million in support of him. And they were able to remove her from the seat and take that seat. And Wesley Bell, even though in the recent amendments to the military budget, they call it the Massey Amendment, 100 and maybe 110 Democrats have switched and supported that. He still hasn't. So it tells you how he is still entrenched in the grip of APAC. And but this time I think it's going to be different. See, last time they ran his ads not about the Israeli issue at all. They camouflage it, and they do that in Chicago all the time with their candidates. They will attack the incumbent or the opponent on everything other, and they will get nasty and dirty and bring up things that are not even substantial. But they will do it to confuse the public, to just get some negativity out there on the candidate. But they will never say it's because of the real reason they're putting in all that money, which is the Israeli issue. So that's what they did last time. They are getting exposed. I think that's what you're going to be talking about today. And the issue is now up in the front. People know that politicians are getting bought. People know that their tax dollars are going to a genocidal entity. And hopefully Cori Bush's campaign can bring this out and make a different run this time around.
Yeah, what makes Cori Bush's race slightly different than what we've seen other anti-APAC candidates in their primaries and Democratic primaries win out in the Northeast and in New York. What makes this different is the amount of energy and money that APAC spent to unseat her. This becomes if she wins on August 4th, this is a definite referendum on anti-Israeli policies. There's no question about it.
Well, I think we also have to look back at Citizens United and the origin of this kind of campaign money in elections, which wasn't the case post or pre 25 years ago, all the way back to the Communications Act of 1922 or so, when it was passed up until the advent of Citizens United and that passing, which allowed unlimited financial money to come into campaigns via anonymous donors. And when you open your elections to that kind of nonsense, you're going to get this buying of your elections. And that's essentially what's happening in America today. And that's, I think, where we need to go back and re-examine and focus our attention. Now, I'm also founding member of the National Black Media Coalition. We fought these things for years. And of course, the National Association of Black Journalists is a outgrowth of NBMC. And, the intent was to create a defensive wall, so to speak, for the Black community, so that we could not only interdict these kinds of challenges and confront these kinds of challenges head on, but we could also encourage the ownership of Black media properties and licenses to Black media entrepreneurs and owners, and opening the way for those who were able to to get in and purchase properties, because we have to have Black ownership of media in order to help the Cori Bushes and those people who are progressive get elected anywhere across the country. So the just the Citizens United effort to get that passed was a windfall to broadcasters. Ironically, it was a windfall to the National Association of Black, or not the National Association of Broadcasters, general broadcasters across the country, and it has been filling the coffers every campaign season for broadcasters across the country. That's why you don't get pushback from the media, because they're benefiting so much from this Citizens United effort to pour unlimited money into the broadcast or into the election system and the campaigns of these people running every 2 or 4.
Abdul Rahman, I'm gonna ask Lance to pull up a video, just a short video of Wesley Bell. But before he does that, I want to set the context on the other side of the video, and that is back in 2016, we heard the chatters on both sides of the aisle from the Democrats mainly, but and came out of the defeat of Hillary Clinton and against Donald Trump the first time, that the Russians were interfering in elections. We're in a situation now, and really have been, where these Israelis in the Zionist project are buying the elections in the United States. They own the Congress, the politicians, through massive funding. And we don't hear the same chatter coming out of either side. Some voices here and there, like the Marjorie Taylor Greens and stuff like that, but primarily not. Lance, can you bring up that video of Wesley Bell, please? And Lance, by the way, this is our show, The Muslim Street, is produced by the Lance Scurv Show out of Accra, Ghana. And we don't know if Lance is up on a ladder or something, Lance. So he'll join us shortly. But having said it, until he pulls up that video, Abdul Rahman, the contradiction in the Russians interfered with the elections versus we don't hear that chatter from the Republicans nor the Democrats, when it's clear that the Israelis, the Zionist project, is interfering with American elections.
Right. I mean, they distract the public. China's interfering, Russia's interfering, when they very well know that who is actually interfering. And Art made great point about Citizens United.
And we're video right now.
My name is Wesley Bell, Congressman from Missouri's 1st District, and I'm proud to stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters and support Israel, particularly at a time that has been very tumultuous. When we see what has happened in the last few years, I think it's even more apropos for us to stand with our friends and in one of our greatest allies. And oftentimes what gets lost is that, yes, we support Israel, but Israel also supports us. So from our national security standpoint, Israel is a key strategic partner. And so it's important for us to stand with our friends. I'm proud to be here standing with our Jewish brothers and sisters.
Uncle Tom off the screen. I can't even stand to look at him. $15.5 million coming in from the Zionists and the genociders, literally to buy that election from Cori Bush on August 4th. First congressional district race in Missouri. Abdul Rahman, finish your point.
Well, he read their script very well. So I want to go back to what Art was saying about Citizens United. A lot of these progressive candidates, we're going to vote us in, we're going to get rid of Citizens United. When the Democrats had control of Congress, did they get rid of Citizens United? No. it's all this and I tell every candidate who tells me that, says, really, how are you going to do that? It's easy to say and to get the public on board against Citizens United, the big bad, which it is big and bad. But how are they going to get rid of it? Are they getting other Congress people to around this issue? I just don't like the false claim that this is possible. It's going to be very, very difficult to get rid of it.
Well, they can get rid of it, Abdul, if they allow a republic acclaim of the broadcast system. They also, at the same time, cut all of the regulatory teeth from the FCC. They shrunk the FCC down to nothing. So there's really no regulation of broadcasters right now. And the broadcasters are loving all of this money that's coming in from Citizens United. And it's really all about elections. Money comes in, and it comes from these APAC groups and these other PAC groups and special interest groups, private donors, anonymous donors, and it's become the mainstay of broadcasters. So that's why it's so hard. The public perception comes from the media, and the media is being fed by this very system that you're talking about backtracking and getting rid of. So there's a way to do it, but it is going to take at least some election of people like Cori Bush, other progressives, but more importantly, it's going to take an outcry from the public to demand that we bring our fourth estate, the broadcasters, back under the constitutional structure that created them in the first place. So they're supposed to be the fourth branch of government. They're supposed to be the eyes and ears of the public. It was designed that way by the framers from the beginning. You got the executive branch, the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and then you have the media. And the media is supposed to be the watchdog for the public. And we've essentially let the media essentially become the prostitute, for everybody else and everybody who wants to buy in on elections, and they've run away with it. And we need to get that back. But that's
why the revolutionary element will always call for a fifth column to overthrow all this stuff. Abdul Rahman, to Art's point of getting something done on this issue, how do you get it done when you got people like two of the highest ranking Black politicians, the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, nearly $2 million from APAC. He's not standing up for nothing. You got Cori Booker, the highest ranking Black Democrat in the Senate, who is an extreme Zionist, going all the way back to his Yale days. How do we, how does this happen?
It happens because they've been bought.
Yeah.
Just like you guys were saying.
Exactly.
They allowed them, that other side, to take out incumbent. I mean, they used to always protect their seats, their incumbents. You don't go against an incumbent. Traditionally, in these parties, whether it's Republican or Democrat, the caucus let two incumbents get knocked out. And if you notice that out of all the anti-Zionist, pro-Palestinian, or pro-peace candidates, at the time when they knocked out Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, those were the two they focused on. Out of all the others, there was maybe half a dozen or 10 of them. Those were the two they focused on. And the individuals that you mentioned allowed it to happen. They didn't have their back. They basically threw them under the bus. So these are not people who have the best interests of the community.
Well, we also see that what happens when you allow unlimited financial spending in these campaigns, you can deluge a candidate who is sitting, you can deluge your party favorite or who is actually doing the work with an outsider that's an unknown. If you put enough, you can get Ronald McDonald elected if you have enough money to push him, and you can push him into the office for, pick the office. You can be president, because you can put enough money to fool the public into thinking that Ronald McDonald is the best candidate for this job because you're going to saturate the airwaves, saturate media with this person, and you can get that done. That is exactly why campaign limitations and financing for campaigns was limited from before. And we've got to get back to campaign limitations on funding. There needs to be a cap on the amount of money any one person or entity can put into a campaign, and those people should have to be identified. They cannot be anonymous donors and people who do this under, just the cover of, these anonymous groups. AIPAC doesn't have to be anonymous, but they all, in addition to sending money through AIPAC, they send it through the Adelsons, they send it through a dozen other funds that are out there. Many of them are known. A lot of them are unknown, but they can put as much money into campaigns as they want. And that's the system that we've wrought, and the system that we have right now is a very, very precarious third world position. I actually call this the Zionization of American politics. We are being Zionized across the board. When you see organizations like ICE who are being trained by the IDF and the Zionists to do what they're doing across the streets of America, that's the Zionization of the police force in America. You see what's happening in campaigns, and you can go down the list of how they control the Palestinians in Gaza and on the West Bank is exactly what they want to do now in the United States. They want to do that in America, and they're bringing it here very aggressively. They're bringing it through technology. They're bringing it through social media. They're bringing it through the media. They're bringing it across the board, law enforcement and the gambit. But it's even in our elections now, because they get away with this stuff in third world countries. And I will consider the state of Israel, the way it's run, as a third world country. It is the exportation of Zionization into the U.S. so that we here in the U.S. can become as controlled and as surveilled as they are in the West Bank or in Gaza. So that's what's coming. This is what we've invited into the system.
Yeah, Abdul-Rahman, you mentioned the failure of the Democratic Party to protect its incumbents. And you mentioned Cori Bush, and then the other would be Jamal Bowman, if I'm correct when you said that. And the other thing that Art mentioned was the Edelsons. That's Miriam Edelson. Her husband passed along a couple of years ago. These are extreme Zionists. They literally pumped $200 million into Trump's pocket in 2016, another $200 million into his pocket in 2020, and then another $200 million into his pockets in 2024. They into him for over almost $1 billion. And with that comes, here's the money in this hand, and here's what we want done in the other hand.
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just wanted to make that point before we go on a little bit more and talk about Cori Bush and the resurrection of Cori Bush. You listen to The Muslim Street, www.themuslimstreet.com. Please go and like and subscribe. Also share this particular podcast and all of our other podcasts. And we've been hitting some very hard points. Let's talk a little bit about Art, and you kind of jump in with Abdul-Rahman on this, is the Palestinian liberation struggle historically in this country has been supported by the best of Black leadership. It was supported by Malcolm X, and so much so that the Anti-Defamation League of the B'nai B'rith and Nelson Perlmutter back in the early 60s hated Malcolm. And they sought to undermine him, not only in New York City, but throughout this country with their control over the media. Because why? Malcolm stood up for the Palestinian people. If we move forward to the Black Panther Party in the late 1960s, they stood up for the Palestinian people coming out of the Black militant struggle. Revolutionary Action Movement in 1966 stood up for the the Palestinian Liberation Movement. We also saw Kwame Ture coming out of SNCC, moving into his revolutionary party, All African Revolutionary Party. Always stood up for the Palestinian Liberation Movement. Minister Louis Farrakhan in the 1980s made it quite clear to the detestment of the Zionist movement in this country, who threatened to kill him, that he stood up for the Palestinian liberation struggle. So we have this history coming to Cori Bush. Cori Bush, back in 2014, when Mike Brown's body laid out in the middle of the street, decaying for hours and hours and hours. She was a local organizer, and she moved into that space. And guess who was there for over 400 days? Supporting Cori Bush and Black people. It was the Palestinians. Abdul Rahman.
Well, it goes back to the synergy of movements, right? Art mentioned this. You know what the police forces are doing here? They're getting trained by IDF. They're getting training. They're bringing these instructors to tell them how to deal with the local populations that might protest or might, in their eyes, be unruly or challenging to the establishment. And the brutal methods of the IDF have become ingrained into the police forces here, in inclusion of the surveillance methods and the other things. In fact, ICE, Art mentioned ICE, there's over 100 IDFs who are working for ICE now. So we see what was going on when Cori Bush was leading the protests over what happened to Mike Brown and the response to that. So it was very relatable to the Palestinians and their experience. So, you know, she brought a point about the tear gas, when they were throwing the tear gas at the demonstrations, at the protests in Ferguson, at the marches, to disperse them. You know, we have experience with that. So they were aiding Cori and the others who were in the marches on how to protect yourself from the tear gassing. So these are things that we're very much related to, the injustice that's happening in America, very similar to other parts of the world.
Yeah, so Art, when we hear voices of the Panther 21 and the Black Liberation Army that emerged in the late 60s and early 70s, people like Dorob Waha and Jalil Muttaqin, Sundiata Kohli, who supported the Palestinian liberation struggle. When we hear voices that are current but aging, people like Omali Yeshitela of Uhuru, one of the key theorists and analysts that we have in the Pan-African or the African nationalist African nationalism movement, supporting the Palestinian liberation struggle. And I say this because there's some white noise that's coming out of social media that, you know, that's not our struggle. You know, I was like, ugh. So that is the reason that I laid the groundwork for our scholarship, our revolutionary scholarship. Our warrior scholars and our movement have always supported the Palestinian struggle. Art, what do you say around this?
Well, we need to understand the history of Palestine. We need to also understand the geography. We know that Palestine borders Egypt. It is the first country that you run into when you come off of what is called the traditional African continent. It is part of Africa. It was always included. All of Africa went all the way to the Euphrates. We know that. And we know that India used to be called East Ethiopia, Eastern Ethiopia. This has always been part of Africa. Palestine before 1948 and in the earlier parts of this past century was essentially an African state. It was an African country. So we know the Palestinians as a Black country. It was full of Black people. Rahman can attest to this as well. We know they were pushed out by some of our Arab brothers and some of our Turkish and Persians and mostly Europeans, engineered by the British and the Europeans to segregate their population. But Palestine has always been considered a part of Africa. So much so that recently Benjamin Netanyahu applied to the African Union for membership in the African Union because he thought that Israel even should be a part of the African Union. So this is a historic geographic connection that we in Africa have had with Palestine all along, and those of us who are not aware of it should go and research those things and bring themselves up to date on what Palestine really is and what Palestine means in the larger picture. But it's very easy for people like it was easy for people like Nelson Mandela to embrace Palestine because Yasser Arafat and the movements, progressive movements in the Palestinian liberation struggle became shoulder-to-shoulder partners against apartheid in South Africa, and also helped a number of the liberations movements, whether it be political, social, or even militarily. They assisted the Black liberation struggles that were going on across the African continent. So that also transferred over to the Black liberation struggles here in America, where there was the NOI, the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X, the movements that Malik just mentioned. They all understand that we're part and parcel of an international and a Pan-African movement to help people become liberated from the structures that are coming out of the U.S. and Europe and now Zionism.
Yeah, so I think, go ahead, Abdurrahman.
Yeah, no, just to follow up on what Art said, it's very true. I mean, if you look at even the faces of many of the Gazans, you know, you can't tell if they're from Egypt or Sudan, right? You know, we took a big loss. One of the people who was killed in the bombings of Gaza was the Palestinian Pele, and if you look at him, you would think he is from Sudan or somewhere. So, you know, it's being where it is geographically, like Art said, has a rich, culturally diverse of different peoples traveling from different parts of the world through that area, and have always been part of the fabric of Palestine.
Just a couple of notes. We mentioned Miriam Adelson, her husband Sheldon Adelson, who passed away a few years ago, writing big checks to Donald Trump. 2016, he writes that first check of $200 million, and one of his one of his very first ask is that he wanted the capital of so-called Israel moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. All right. And Donald Trump puts this into play because of that $200 million coming from Sheldon Adelson, as we talk about, campaign money. Also, Gamal Abdel Nasser, to the point of Art and the region and the historic Blackness of the region. Gamal Abdel Nasser, who becomes the post-colonial leader of Egypt, he and a Pan-Africanist, he said in the 1950s, there's no respect for these so-called Jews who left here black and returned white. So meaning that the ones who are there, they're counterfeit. They are not to be confused with any original Jews of the Bible or the Quran or the time of Moses. These are Ashkenazi European Jews who converted to Judaism 9th century Europe. That's just a few years ago. Anyway, Abdul Rahman.
Yeah, I mean, the caste system is very prevalent in Israeli society, where you have the Polish and the German, Russian Jews at the top, and then you have the native Jewish population, which was the brown and black Jews, have been regulated to second and third class. And then you have the Druze fourth class, and then you have the Arabs fifth. So that's very racist society when it comes to that, and that's even they're having that internal struggle very often with the different types of the Mizrahi and Ashkenazis and Sephardic Jews and all that. Ethiopian Jews, they're trying to bring the Ethiopian Jews back to Israel, and all you hear is complaints, where they're giving them medications where they don't have kids. So they're bringing them in on the one hand, but then they don't want them to increase their population on the other hand.
Yeah, they're doing to the black population of real Jewish people the same thing that they're doing to African Americans. They're genociding and slowly trying to annihilate the population here, COVID and a number of other things we won't and can't go into right now. That's a whole nother show. But, I understand Cori Bush and what she is trying to do. I welcome her back into the public sphere. I hope she can regain her seat and get back involved there in Washington. And I hope that other African Americans or African people, Ilhan Omar, those kinds of voices are welcome and have to become a part of an international voicing of the Pan-African movement and where we're going. And we are definitely full-throated, full-throttled support of Palestine and have been. This isn't new for Black people to be supportive of Palestine. It's just become fashionable for some of the progressives in this country to all of a sudden say, oh, well, yeah, we should support the Palestine, that we can't allow this genocide that's going on our televisions every day. We're appalled and shocked, that 200,000, 300,000 people have been killed and any number of people who are under all of that rubble in Gaza, to be, well, you've been blind to this all along, Bernie Sanders included. Everybody that's in Congress, every person that's in Congress is on the take, AIPAC and from those elements, and they're doing it exactly for that reason. This is why they don't want the voices of Black people heard, whether they're the people that you mentioned, Malik, who are around, who have been around historically, or they're people like yourself and me. They want to make sure that they even dominate the airways when it comes to just redressing some of these issues. You don't see Black people on a lot of these television, social media, podcasts, and talk shows. So that's why we create our own. That's why the Muslim Street exists. And we need to be very vocal about these things. And, I'm laughing almost every day at what Iran is doing for everybody is, standing on the front line in the trench, fighting every day for all of us. They're fighting for Pan-Africanists. They're fighting for progressives in America. They're fighting for the Palestinians. They're fighting for all of us across the board. And they're taking the hits right now. That front line moves all the time. In the 60s, the front line was here in America. You saw black people on the streets and water hoses and police. That was the front line of the world in the progressive movement, in the Pan-African movement. Right now, it shifted from Africa, and now it's over in Iran. And every time I see the Straits of Hormuz, the Straits of Hormuz is like a circular drive in the yard of the Iranians. And people are saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have any say over what comes into your driveway. I mean, look, get a book and look at the geography of the Strait of Hormuz. It runs right into Iran. I mean, on three sides, you got to go into Iranian territory undeniably. So absolutely, the Iranians have a right to control that waterway if they want to. And they certainly have a right to avenge those people who were assassinated on February the 28th and in support of everything that we're trying to achieve internationally.
Yeah. Abdul Rahman, you had mentioned earlier about the vote that happened last week, where you saw a wave of Democrats going against arms to Israel, over 100 of them. Now, I think this is a signal to the electorate that even AIPAC money cannot catch up and close the gap of what's going to happen in Missouri in that first congressional district with Cori Bush. This wave will continue. It will continue to heighten. This is a definite referendum against the Zionist project, against the genocide, against anti-American first, which Donald Trump lied about. But before I have your response to that, because I don't think they can catch up. I think the ship has left the harbor. Right. Just a point about Benjamin Netanyahu, who was born in 1948, the first year of his family living in occupied Palestine. His father, his mother, they're from Poland. Okay.
The Malinowskis.
Yeah. And they even have a Polish name. Say that name one more time.
Malinowski.
They ain't nothing Hebrew about that. Okay, so he was born with a Polish name. He raised in Philadelphia eating cheesesteaks. And then, now he's back in Israel. But and also, Abdul Rahman, I'd like to
and his son's in Florida is changing his name to something else.
Down in Miami, right? Yeah. Laying on the beach in South Beach. So, Abdul Rahman, so these, I want you to respond to the wave. This referendum against genocide that's going on now, no more weapons, and what that means for Cori Bush. Happened up in New York with Mandani's candidates. But also, I want you to address what I see as a ploy coming out of these quote unquote progressives, and that is to identify, Netanyahu with Trump. I don't like him, like he's a Hitler or something like that. When that is only a symptom of the problem. The symptom of the problem is what existed since the last 70-something years, and that's the Zionist project. It must go. Right? There's no separating Netanyahu and isolating him from that, so that when he's replaced, everything is hunky dory, and America can move back to shipping weapons over there. It's the same thing.
Yeah, you had a lot of that 100. Try to say it's they voted that. They're trying to be on the fence still, right? They know the public is against it. They know it's the right thing to do, but still they don't want to overly piss off the other side. So they're trying to say, well, yeah, we voted for this because Netanyahu has gone too far, right? They're using him. And so does that mean when Netanyahu is no longer prime minister, then they're dumping all those billions back? It seems that way from their statements. So it's kind of insincere, but AIPAC is pissed off. They put a press release, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, saying that they listed the Democrats who voted against funding them. They will no longer get support of AIPAC. I don't know. If the candidates are smart, they'd use that for their own benefit. They're thinking they're doing something to hurt them. But at this moment, the politicians knew by voting this that it's not going to hurt them. They voted this way because they know the public is against it.
Yeah.
Well, they're scared. They're running scared. Those missiles that are being fired from Iran are lighting their asses up, and they know that they are going to have to leave the area, if not really ratchet down. What they're hoping is, oh, well, we're in trouble. The state of Israel's very existence now has been threatened. Now, I mean, they were threatening Iran. Iran said, hey, Israel and all of the American bases in the area are an existential threat to Iran. Now, an existential threat to Israel is really created because of the move that they allowed the U.S. to make and the Israelis made when they attacked Iran, assassinating their leaders and children and their top structures, even their imam. I mean, they've overstepped their line, and now they want to try to see if they can push the dirt in and pack it up so that they can justifiably keep Israel in the area, and they really can't do it. Israel will have to pack up and leave that area. That's my prediction.
Yeah,
it has been mine for a while when I saw this coming.
Country. And Rahman, to support Art's position that he just stated, which was that final position that Israel will no longer exist. They have choked on their own vomit of hatred. Now, to support that, I talked with a consultant in Oman yesterday, a longtime colleague, and she indicated she was doing business there, very, very prosperous prior to the Iranian war, and businesses dried up throughout the region. Trillions and trillions of dollars that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Emiratis were doing in terms of proposing for technology inside the United States, wasted. Okay. Now, the Fifth Fleet, which is in Bahrain, American Fifth Fleet, neutralized and destroyed by the Iranians. This is huge. What used to provide cover for the Zionist project, there's no more cover.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit last week. That whole area has been shut down, basically.
Yes.
The airports are constantly being open and closed, and people are not being able to travel. This is going to hurt business, conferences, all the things that they were hoping to open up their countries by, being in partnership with the U.S. and having and Israel, and they thought all that is going to be a benefit to them, and it has backfired. Exactly. The bases that they have are all decimated now. Are they going to allow the U.S. to rebuild those? And what's the purpose? For defense? They didn't work. They were the first things that got knocked out.
Absolutely.
In fact, they're lucky that's the only thing that the Iranians hit was those facilities.
The Iranians have been
very smart in that they presented as we are not against the people of these Muslim countries. We are against the governments that allowed the U.S. a foreign entity to entrench themselves here. Well, so they were very strategic in doing it that way.
Exactly, they've been very surgical in their in their reaction and their retribution against the U.S. And again, U.S. and Israel, I've always said it, they're one entity. Don't think that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. They keep playing this game. They play the public just like, they do here in the States. But let's turn the page. Let's look forward. What is going to happen to those Arab states who have been complicit and have gone along, allowed the U.S. bases to be on their soil, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, I can't even say the UAE, but those states now have to do something. And I think that a lot of people in the Arab world have gotten very comfortable with the fact that these states even exist. And they're kind of crying crocodile tears, and they don't really want to see those states go. They don't want to see Saudi broken up and gone in a different direction. But that is an extreme possibility now that Iran has unleashed what it has. Iran doesn't want to destroy the whole area. That wouldn't be practical. You know, this is an economic machine. There's some value in every one of these states from the Iranian point of view. But let's not kill our own brothers in that state, in those states, from the point of view, again, of the Iranians. Let's bring them inside a Iranian-based and an Iranian-controlled new structure, and let's continue to move forward. Let's not bomb the heck out of everything and destroy all of this great infrastructure built. We can take that infrastructure over. So, what do you think about that, Brother Rock?
It was very good because they destroyed the narrative, right? But they didn't destroy the countries. They destroyed the narrative that the U.S. will protect you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and protect and in relation, protect two things. One would be the leftover vestiges of neocolonialism, which has been running the Middle East and those Middle East states since post-colonial period of the 1950s and 1960s. And then the last thing, you talk about the protection of their economies, particularly in Dubai, which was ran on a hospitality tourism infrastructure. And now, if you see all the girls' trips want to go to Dubai, you can get you a Hilton hotel. This is real time. A Hilton hotel in Burj Khalifa for $20 a night right now.
Yeah, it's pretty much better than Vegas was during COVID, right?
$20 a night.
Hey, let's go.
You can go to Dubai for $20 a night and live in a 5-star, 6-star hotel.
Let's do the Muslim street from there.
Compliments of the Iranians.
Other,
Can't make this up. $20. And I just pulled it up. $20 a night.
Sweet.
Hilton.
The other narrative they destroyed was that they're the boogeyman, that they're out to kill and annihilate those Gulf countries, right? They could have, right? They decimated the defense systems. They could have easily bombed those countries. They didn't. They didn't hurt the people. So the narrative that they're the boogeyman, they're going to hurt us, take over. No, they didn't.
Iran is not that.
Yes.
Iran has never
Very
been
smart.
that. They've handled it really masterfully. And I hope that this not only continues, but they essentially evict the state of Israel finally from that region. You get Israel out of there, all the troubles go away at that point. They really blew an opportunity to be in the area, and they now have to pack up and leave with the rest of the U.S. and the machinery and the equipment that was oppressing that entire area. And I mean, if you think about it, for the last 25, 30 years, 40 years, 70 years, that has been the ignition point of all the troubles for Africa, for Black people around the world, for that area of the world, the Near East and what they call the Middle East. It has been a trouble spot, the unbelievable source of problems for everybody. And it will finally be vanquished. And I know that is what's sending the stock markets and people panic throughout the West and Europe.
we're out of time here. You've been listening to Muslim Street, www.themuslimstreet.com. I want to thank Brother Abdul Rahman, Palestinian movement out of Chicago. We have to come back there as a Muslim Street. Art Mobley. Art, I want to suggest something that goes out is that Cori Bush's election in St. Louis is about 2.5 weeks out. August 4th, which is a Tuesday, August 2nd, which is a Sunday. Why don't we head down to St. Louis and do a live broadcast of Abdul Rahman of the Muslim Street and, do some door knocking and some supporting and some fundraising for Cori Bush to get her over that finish line. I'm proposing that. I'll get with you guys offline and see if we can pull that off. But I think it'll be a grand statement to do the Muslim Street live from her election site and election headquarters, and then get out and help get out the vote for her on August 4th. Every vote is going to count. Every dollar is going to count. Cori Bush's resurrection. For the Muslim Street and Abdul Rahman, as well as Art Mobley and Lance Scurvy, I want to thank you for producing us out of Ghana, Accra, Ghana. I am Malik Aziz, founder, executive producer of the Muslim Street. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.